Welcome to this edition of the Golden Rule. We're here to get Detroit Lakes thinking about Jesus. And in order to do that, we have guests here every week, different guests. And today, Mark Kiser is here with me. Mark, thank you for taking the time to come. Our goal is to see Detroit Lakes become a beacon of righteousness. That's what we're trying to do. And we do it by telling them about the Bible, first of all, and we do it by having people share some experiences they've had with God that clearly indicate there is a God. Whether you believe it or not, there is a God. The Bible says, let God be true and
every man a liar.
Every man a liar. So there is a God, folks, and I want to just turn Mark loose here today to share with you an event that he experienced in his life, which you'll find kind of unforgettable, maybe incredible. Mark?
Thank you for having me today. It is my hope that you understand this is my experience. I don't claim that it's any more severe or greater than anyone else's, but it's my story and I enjoy sharing it because God did many wonderful things and continues to do wonderful things as a result of what happened to me. So it was August of 2019. I was riding through the Black Hills on my way to Colorado where I went to high school. I've ridden there many times. I was by myself, which I've done many times. Ridden over 40 years, over 150,000 miles on about every kind of bike there is to ride. And so I had a lot of experience. I wasn't doing anything wrong. I wasn't speeding. I had all my safety gear on. I wasn't under the influence of anything other than the Lord and His creation. And a lady who said she did not see me very close to me turned left in front of me. And my motorcycle struck the rear right side of her pickup truck at 60 miles an hour, and I flew over the handlebars. They told me 52 feet in the air. I've still got the helmet. I wished I would have brought it today. It's scarred on every corner.
Wow.
I want you to understand this, though. I believe in miracles. I believe God is in the miracle working business. And I want to show you, just even in the accident scene itself, there was many miracles that occurred to my benefit and to the glory of God. If I would have gone, if the truck was at an angle and I struck it at an angle, and so it ejected me to the right. And I'll tell you why that's important. If I would have been going straight and it would have been a straight T-bone, there was an opportunity I could have been thrown to the left. If that would have happened, the very next car that came, I would have gone into that vehicle and they would have killed me. If I would have gone straight over the handlebars, I would have continued bouncing down the road like Evel Knievel, and I would not have survived. The doctors told me that many impacts on the asphalt. But it ejected me to the right. And I have to tell you, I never blacked out. I never lost consciousness. I remember floating through the air. I remember landing. I remember everything. I can remember every detail right now as it happened that day.
Really?
And so I bounced off to the right, hit the pavement for a short stretch, went into the gravel, and eventually ended up in a ditch in the grass. I knew what had happened. Like I said, I never lost consciousness. But what floored me was I was on my hands and knees and I looked up and there's the truck in front of me again. And I'm totally disoriented, like, how was the truck in front of me? I hit that truck thinking it's not possible. I bounced backwards. I didn't realize I'd gone over the top of the truck. I mean, I knew I had, but I just wasn't catching it at that point. And I remember, like, this is crazy. This clear blue sky, green grass. I was conscious. I said, I'm just going to stand up. That wasn't so bad. And there was a hand on my shoulder that said, sir, you need to lay down. And of course, I was totally messed up, had no clue. So there was a miracle of the direction I went from the impact. Here's another miracle. The man who put his hand on my shoulder rolled me over and he began to carefully, I mean slow motion, unzip my jacket, remove my helmet, took my coat off of me, used it as a pillow. And he looked in my eyes and this is what he said. I'm a trauma surgeon from Duluth on my way home from vacation in Denver. I saw you flying through the air and I knew I needed to stop and help you.
Oh my.
Can you imagine?
My.
Of all the people that were in the car, had I gone to the left, would have killed me, was this man. Now, I need to interject real quickly. Some people say, do you believe in angels? I absolutely do.
Yeah.
Some people say, do you believe he was an angel? Well, there's every possibility he was. But whether he was or wasn't, I believe God in his sovereignty placed him there for that moment in my life.
Wow.
So he stayed with me doing triage all the way until the ambulance came. So there was the miracle of the direction that I traveled.
Yeah.
I would have died any other direction. If he hadn't have been there and I would have stood up, this is what he told me. I was so broken up inside, I would have cut my insides to ribbons. All my organs would have started to fail. I would have bled to death internally before the ambulance ever arrived. Secondly, if that didn't kill me, by standing up and those bones moving around the way they were injured, they could have partially or completely severed my spinal cord.
Gosh.
So had I survived, which I wouldn't have from the bleeding, but had I would have been partially or totally paralyzed. Another miracle.
Boy.
A miracle that I didn't stand up, a miracle that it was a trauma surgeon, a miracle that I went to the right into the ditch instead of down the road. Miracle after miracle. I want you to understand, in my opinion, God gave me the best of care. I need to thank my two surgeons, Jason Labrie and Dr. Brown in Sanford and Fargo. Dr. Labrie did his best. He wanted to do the plates and screws initially, but I had so much damage inside my body that all of the pollution from all the organs would have caused the plate and the screws to become poison to my system, and I would have died from poisoning. He couldn't do what he wanted to do, so he used an external band. He did a different kind of pelvic repair, which is not usually successful. And Anthony Brown in Fargo, bless his heart, the first time he saw me, he said, I don't think this is going to work.
Excuse me, how'd you get from the Black Hills to Fargo?
Okay, so months of rehab. From the accident scene, I was taken to one hospital in Hot Springs. They couldn't treat my pelvic injury and other injuries. They had to transport me to Rapid City, and that's where I met Dr. Labrie.
No.
And he did my initial surgery. I was there for the initial month of recovery. I have to tell you, I couldn't lift my heels off my bed sheets, not even 1 inch.
Oh gosh, really?
Here I was throwing my leg over the bike with luggage on it and everything, and I couldn't even lift. I knew I was in trouble. I knew I was in the biggest fight of my life. I remember Dr. Labrie came to me and said, Mr. Kiser, I've got good news. You're not going to die. But he said, there's other people that may. So I need to operate on them and you need to wait. And so I waited 5 days to have my surgery. So for 5 days I laid there with broken hip, broken pelvis, broken leg, and all my other injuries. I had some stitching and other stuff done, but there were a lot of repairs to my body that couldn't even start for almost a week. I had the best of care. And so when I got to Dr. Brown, he graciously agreed to take my case. And so another process of over a month, I went to Philip, South Dakota, which is between Pierre and Rapid City, did my initial rehab there. Still was not able to put any weight on my legs for 13 weeks. So when I got here to Ecumen, God bless Ecumen in Detroit Lakes, their rehab facility was just wonderful for me. Another miracle. Two ladies I'll never forget who worked a lot for me, Kelly and Tricia. And I hope they see this someday. And if they don't, I hope somebody who knows them sees it.
Yeah, right.
But they were my occupational physical therapist. They were very protective of me. They respected my dignity as a person and worked very hard with me. It took a lot of surgeries. In fact, Dr. Brown was right. I remember going to his office in Fargo. We did a test, can you stand or not without your pelvis moving? And we failed that test, and he ripped everything out, in his words, and started all over again.
Oh boy.
So after all of the rehab and all of the work, I had to go back through surgery again, have plates and screws inserted in my body, and stitch back up and go through rehab all over again the second time, which was discouraging, I will be honest. But I have to say, would I ever want to go through the experience of the accident again? Absolutely not. Would I trade the life experiences of the people I met along the journey? Absolutely not. I would never give that up. God brought so much good into my life. I got to go back to college again for the fourth time, graduate.
Really?
I graduated all 4 times, I should say, but I did go back. I was the first graduate from my Bible school in Missouri in their new leadership program. I'm proud of that the Lord allowed me to be in that first class. Had wonderful instructors. God opened doors. You know, when you're laying there in the bed and you've been mortally wounded and your life kind of just gets reevaluated. And I said, so my motto from the beginning was, I'm going to make the best of the rest of my life. And what does that look like? And I had a strong desire to go into education, go back in. I'd been in parochial education for many years, all the way back in the 80s and 90s. But I wanted to go back, and my grandchildren were there, and my granddaughter was getting older and ready to graduate. I had to hurry if I was going to be in any of her classes. So I did. I hustled, and I got it done. And I got to be in class with all my grandkids in elementary, middle school, and high school, and be involved in many other ways at Detroit Lakes High School and public schools. And now I got my state certification as a substitute. I'm a full-time substitute teacher. I teach in 6 different schools. I'm literally involved in the lives of thousands of kids in Detroit Lakes, Audubon, and Lake Park. There's a couple of verses I want to give you that will reflect back and make sense to you. My life verses, which I adopted a long time ago, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Don't rest on your own understanding. In all of your ways acknowledge Him. And here's the key. He directs your paths.
Yes.
And I fully believe in my heart, for whatever reason only God knows. I know some of them. He knows all of them. He knows all the reasons why. He directed my path into the side of a truck in the Black Hills in 2019. And He directed my path ever since. Certainly He directed my path prior to that as well. I believe in the sovereignty of God, that He either causes or allows everything that happens in my life. Which brings me to Romans 8, 28 and 29. You know, we know that everything works together for good to those who love God, who are called according to His purpose. All things are not good. Cancer is not good.
Right.
Motorcycle wreck is not good. Rehab and 5 months to stand up and try to walk again, that's not good. But He works good through it. And He's certainly done that. This is my story. It's a wonderful story for me that I got to go back. Early on, I determined that first week I would go back and thank my caregivers. I was able to do that. Not all of them were available. I called my surgeon because I couldn't. He had moved away to Arizona at that point. I couldn't physically see him. Went to Dr. Brown, went to my emergency rooms and my nurses that I could find. And I let them see me that God had spared me and was continuing to use me.
How long did it take from the accident to the time you were fully mobile and able to function?
Oh, 6 months or more, probably close to 7. You know, they told me it would take 2 years to figure out how my body would end up. And I've got permanent muscle and nerve damage in my left leg, which took the beating when I landed. The hip, you know, they told me I'd have early arthritis, which I do. They told me I'd have a lot of pain, which I do. But the joy of being alive, and I can honestly say, I don't care how bad I'm hurting, when I walk in that classroom and I see those kids, it just melts away.
Now this gave you some opportunities, didn't, with school administration and speaking to the students?
Yeah. So the academy at Detroit Lakes High School, I've been a part of that from its inception, and early on they invited me to be the inaugural speaker at what they call the Commitment to Graduate ceremony. So every spring, the freshman class comes into the auditorium, into the field house, the new field house now, and they come in to pomp and circumstance, and they take their chairs. They're not wearing caps and gowns, but there's this little mini commencement thing, if you will, looking forward 3 years from them to coming across in the full cap and gown. And they're making a commitment not to drop out of high school, to be a devoted student, and to graduate, and to try to make plans for the future of their life, which I'm proud that the school has done. So for 4 years now, the first 4 years of the Academy's existence, I've been the keynote speaker at every one of their Commitment to Graduate ceremonies.
Wow.
I'm also the president of the Champions Board, and that's a liaison between the school and community, and there's just a lot of good things happening in our schools. I'm glad I'm there. I'm hoping I'm an encouragement, and I do share my story with the students from time to time that prepare yourself, young people. Life isn't always fair. I did nothing wrong, and something bad happened to me, but God has brought so much good from it. And I have that faith to lean upon, and I feel sorry, honestly, for people who are totally abandoned at that point and wondering and struggling with no promises or assurance that I had as a believer that God was with me every step of the way and had the prayers of thousands of believers.
We were talking earlier about the decline in numbers of people that believe in God, and I was just thinking that we don't know when when they took the Bible out of schools and they took the Ten Commandments out of the schools, that was the start of the downhill decline. But I don't know if you've heard or not, but the Supreme Court has just made a ruling concerning restoring God to the school systems in various ways. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, I would say this, being in the schools, I'm a pastor, but you can ask the students. I don't walk around packing a family Bible, and I'm not, grabbing them by the collar, preaching them into hell, or trying to beg them into heaven.
Sure.
But I will quote scripture from time to time. I will remind them I'm a pastor from time to time. I will set the boundaries. I hope I'm an example to them. I'm hoping that I'm a positive influence upon them. Jesus and his disciples and his early church made a huge impression on their communities by just living the life, backing up what they said they believed.
Crazy question, but do you ever bring your guitar into school and sing?
I have.
Have you?
I absolutely have. Especially at the elementary age, they just absolutely love it.
That's awesome.
And I love it too.
Well, we're just about out of time here, Mark, but I just want to thank you for coming. And you know what? I think we've got some other stuff we'd like to talk about, so if you're okay sticking around, we'll do another session.
Sure.
God bless you. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Don't forget, you can watch this over and over and over again all week long, 42 times in the week, starting Monday through Sunday. So tell your friends if you've heard something that Mark shared that you thought, oh, I wish so-and-so had heard this. They can. And if they can't catch it on Channel 3, they can go to lakestv3.com. She'll put that on the screen. And you can watch not only this program, but the archive programs. You might scroll through there and say, ooh, I didn't know so-and-so was on there. You might actually get hooked. So, God bless you and have a great week, and we'll see you next time.